What is going on, everybody? Revolution Hell Cowboy here, and this video is going to be about something that's been trending all over social media for at least the last couple of weeks, and something that's probably needed to be addressed many years ago. So anyways, I'm going to talk about Give Divas a Chance, or hashtag Give Divas a Chance, as it has been trended over Twitter, probably been mentioned on Facebook, YouTube, like what I'm doing here, and just anywhere else that people can talk about it. So around the time of Fastlane, the Oscars were also the same night, and actress Patricia Arquette won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her role in the movie Boyhood. In her acceptance speech, she talked about women's rights. Now you're going to wonder, what does this have to do with divas? Well, you'll find out. So anyways, I'm going to quote what Patricia Arquette said, and by the way, if you guys are wondering, she is the older sister of actor David Arquette, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, I wonder why that company's not in business anymore. Okay, so Patricia said, and I quote, "To every woman who gave birth to every taxpayer and citizen of this nation, we have fought for everybody else's equal rights. It's our time to have wage equality once and for all, and equal rights for women in the United States of America." Now, during that time, Stephanie McMahon decided to tweet her, thanking her for her speech. So Stephanie says, "Thank you, at Patty Arquette, for having the courage to fight for hashtag women's rights on such a grand platform." And then she uses the hashtag, use your voice. Let's just say somebody was not happy with Stephanie's kind of hypocritical statement. AJ Lee had to say, at Steph McMahon, "Your female wrestlers have record-selling merchandise and have starred in the highest rated segment of the show several times. And yet, they receive a fraction of the wages and screen time of the majority of the male roster." And then she uses the hashtag, use your voice. Well, let's just say Stephanie wasn't too happy about it, but she acted professional when she retweeted AJ. She says, "Thank you, at WWE AJ Lee. I appreciate your opinion. Hashtag use your voice." So, yeah. So this is a good sign that the divas are not too happy with what's going on, how they're being treated. A couple weeks ago on Raw, Paige was going to have a tag team match with Emma versus the Bellas, and right in the middle, they cut in between the match to show a promo for Sting and his upcoming match with Triple H. Then once the Divas match came back on, well, only lasted, not even a minute. And probably one of the biggest jokes when it comes to just Divas matches in general. And it just seems that they're not respecting the Divas all that much. Divas wrestling, I hate to say it, has gone kind of downhill in the WWE the last, 5-6 years. And nowadays, how many real good, legit female wrestlers are on the roster? Yes, we have AJ Lee, we have Paige, Natalia's still pretty good, Naomi's alright, and I guess in their own right, Nikki and Brie can show that they can wrestle, but it just seems like the rest of them act more like they're models than wrestlers. And it's hard to even watch a Divas match without just thinking, okay, here's just some girls fighting, and that's it. There's nothing significant about this match. What happened to the days of real women's wrestling? You think back to the days of Alundra Blaze, who's now going to the Hall of Fame, and her run in the WWF before she left, threw the belt in the garbage in WCW and just wrestled there as Medusa. Bull Nakano, she's a famous Japanese women's wrestler. Not a pretty looking chick either, but she didn't care. She'd kick some ass. Chyna, who can forget Chyna? One of the very few women in pro wrestling to wrestle with the men because of how she's built, and and she was the Intercontinental Champion, the only woman in history to hold that championship. Now, she's not the only woman in history of the World Wrestling Federation / WWE to hold a men's title. There have also been women who held the Hardcore Championship, from Trish Stratus to Molly Holly. And God, think about to the days of the era women wrestlers. You know, I just mentioned Trish Stratus and Molly Holly, Lita, Victoria, Ivory, Jacqueline, Sable, Jazz, Gail Kim, who still I believe is active in TNA. And it's just, what happened? What happened to the days of good women's wrestling? When women would go hardcore. When they'd have steel cage matches even. I think there was one women's steel cage match. Maybe, I think there might have been a ladder match once. I don't know when. Obviously, it would have been back during the days of the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era. I know TNA's done some ladder matches with their women's wrestlers. Of course, they're called the Knockouts. There was even a main event with Trish Stratus and Lita, I believe, on an episode of Raw back in 2003, 2004, 2005, sometime in that time frame. I mean, what happened? What happened to women's wrestling in general? And how about when they had Awesome Kong in the company, who was going under the name Karma? Then she gets pregnant, sadly has a miscarriage, but then WWE just decides, we're not going to have anything to do with her, we're just going to let her go. And eventually she goes back on the indies, now she's back in TNA, and yeah, they could have done more with Awesome Kong. We've had other divas like Eve Torres and Beth Phoenix, who were great female wrestlers, and they just eventually thought, we're done, we're just going to leave. And I guess it's just how WWE wants to treat the divas nowadays. And I don't know, I kind of feel like maybe the show Total Divas is a little bit to blame. It shows the wrong side of women's wrestling, just shows them more as being supermodels and stuff than being wrestlers. Now, I like the fact we have hot divas and all. Don't get me wrong, I don't want chicks that aren't attractive, but they should be more just eye candy. I do kind of miss the days of broad patty matches, swimsuit contests, and all that stuff, but in the end, we just want to see female wrestling, just like we want to see male wrestling. Do you go and watch the UFC and say, oh yeah, Ronda Rousey, she's so hot. Oh yeah, no, you go to watch and see her kick ass. I think so far Ronda Rousey has headlined 2 UFC pay-per-views. She's probably one of the most talked about women athletes there is right now. You know, and it goes the same for a lot of other sports. Think of NASCAR, Danica Patrick. She's become a big star. Yeah, she's done some posing and Sports Illustrated's swimsuit issues and stuff, but people aren't watching her because she's hot. People are watching her because she could race. It's alright to, say, hey, these chicks are hot, I love seeing them wrestle, but that's it. We just want to see them wrestle. That's just like we want to see the men wrestle. There's girls who are going crazy about the men, like John Cena and Randy Orton, and so on, but still, we just want to see good women's wrestling, just good wrestling in general. I can talk about the males roster too, just the main roster, how some of them get treated, but let's face it, the women get treated like crap, because the company's still built more around the male wrestlers than the females. Now, NXT actually seems to at least care about women's wrestling. Like Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch. They're doing much better in NXT than they probably would do on the main roster. And much as I'd like to see them all make their main roster debuts someday, I almost feel like maybe it's just better they stay on NXT. And I mentioned this previously in one of my other videos where I talked about the male superstars on NXT, and maybe that they're better staying there, but I don't know. So, we'll have to see what happens. At the current moment, it looks like there's going to be a match at WrestleMania, maybe not so much involving Stephanie McMahon, but at the current moment, it's going to involve AJ Lee, the Bellas, Paige, and it's not known if it'll be just a singles match between AJ Lee and Nikki Bella for the Divas title. Maybe it'll be a tag team match if AJ Lee and Paige gets the Bellas. Maybe it'll be a fatal 4-way. Maybe there'll be a battle royal. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. So there's my thoughts, opinions on how I see this playing out, and how I'd like to see women's wrestling just be just the same as men's wrestling. Yes, obviously a little different. Women can't get too physical compared to the men, but at least just have them put on good matches, like like they do in NXT. Do the same with the main roster. So those are my opinions. I want to hear yours. Feel free to comment down below and let me know. Do you think women's wrestling should be on par with men's, or do you just not give a crap? I mean, just let me know your guys' opinions. Anyways, thanks for tuning into this video. And that's all for now. As always, rock on and keep collected.